And we are live. Hello and welcome to Confessions of a Global Changemaker show. I am dancing, I am boogieing. I'm so happy to have the amazing Jean Macdonald on today's show. Jean, welcome to today's show.
Thank you, Sammy. Lovely to be here.
Oh, Jean, look, I can see. Give us a little shimmy with your one drop. Show us your one drop. It's under the thing. There we go. There we go.
Particularly high. How's that?
There we go. Yeah, perfect. My fellow one dropreneur. See, I've even got my t-shirt on. Watch out, one dropreneur coming through.
Very good.
So, Jean, I want to dig straight in because you are so dear to my heart. You've been a Brand Builders Club member for it can't be that long, actually. It was about a year, but it feels like from the beginning.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you. Just over a year.
Just over a year. And I've watched you completely fly. And what I love about you, Jean, is you're so good at applying yourself as well. You know when to stop and when to get stuck into something and then when to start again. So for our viewers, we've got a bit of a thing going on, I think. Shimmy that one drop. Yes, hello. Oh, we've got everyone else hear that? There's some weird, I had some weird stuff going on then. I hope that nobody else could hear that. I can hear this weird alien thing that's going on. Is it maybe we're shimmying too much, Jean?
No, I can't hear it. The sound is excellent from what I can hear.
Okay, all right, we're all good. So, Jean, let's dig straight in because there might be people that's watching tonight's show who don't know who you are, and it's a travesty that they don't know about you yet. So, Jean, tell us about your gorgeous self. What is your why?
My why is to awaken women to their spirituality. That's the big long-term goal. And I elicited that with the help of the Brand Builders Club. I had never really seen it that clearly before.
I love it. And I love your message and everything that you do. Jean, you've been through so much to get where you are. Tell us, let's dig straight in with a confession, because this is the confession show after all. So give us like one big juicy confession that you don't tell people very often, but that you've gone through in your business so that other people can hear it and go, oh, thank God, it's not just me.
Well, I don't know how widely my experience would share, but my life has divided into two halves. One half I lived as a man, and the other half I lived as a woman.
And
well, it's not quite as clear cut as that. There has been an overlap in that I didn't go for one of these sort of let's say a transsexual operation and all that sort of stuff. That really did not interest me, and it turned out to be for the best, because I wouldn't really have wanted to be permanently at that end of the seesaw. I enjoy being at both ends of the seesaw as and when it suits me.
I love that. You literally have got it all. I love it. They say, women want it all. And why not? Why can't us women have it all? Why can't men have it all? I love the fact you've got best of both worlds. And what you've done with your business is really sculpt it towards supporting midlife women to understand their midlife men, which is just genius, because you literally do have both sides of the coin.
Thank you very much. But in my opinion, and this is the reason why I feel I've finally found my focus, is midlife women, as they emerge from the previous half of their life, or as I say, emerge from the chrysalis, they are the most powerful people potentially on the planet to change all sorts of conditions, including all this rubbish we have between the genders, which is not helpful.
Yeah. And Jean, what do you see?
That's an intentional understatement.
Right. And what do you see is like the biggest challenge for women just like you, who are setting out in business but really finding their identity? Was there ever a point where you weren't sure what your identity should be?
Yes, I suppose there was. I mean, I had difficulty at first accepting the messages I was getting about my identity. And I can tell you briefly what it was. In a period between 2010 and 2012, I did a course 3 times called The Transformation. And only on the 3rd time did I get a very distinct message, which was that, okay, you demonstrated that you can live as a woman, and that's fine, but this isn't something just for your entertainment and pleasure. You have a job to do with this. And I thought, oh, really? Oh, dear. I don't know what that is. But the message came to me several times and was pretty unmistakable, let's say. So I had to take it seriously, but I was slow to act. I would say there were another 3 years during which I was still shaking before, not shaking, but moving around before I really was ready to accept it. And joining the Brand Builders Club has really brought it for me clear, really clear, and to the front.
Ah, it's amazing. Jean, when you were going through this process, how did you get this message? I mean, you clearly were getting divine guidance. Where did you feel it was coming from?
Well, clearly there was a resistance on my part, but then in the course of this program I did, this transformation program it's called, we did some guided meditations, and I followed the thing, and it was one where you're led to a place, you encounter somebody who's going to tell you something, and the guider stops and says, right, you write down now what happens, what they say to you, you do it. So kind of automatic writing. And that's what I did. And it happened on 2 occasions. The second message was slightly stronger than the first one. Not that I particularly needed at that stage, but let's say it reinforced the fact that this wasn't some sort of idle dream. But as I said, it took me some time to come to terms, to face up to it, really.
Yeah, I think, I mean, you think about the transitions that we go through in life where our identity does change, the way we feel and think about ourselves can change as well. And especially when you go into the world of business, that can also massively mess with your identity and how you feel. Like, who should I be? What is my brand? How do I brand my business? How do I brand myself? And you've really gone through that reinvention of yourself, which is just so powerful for other people to see. It might not have been easy, but look where you are now and look how you shine. You literally sparkle and shine wherever you go. You are the one drop. I mean, how does it feel to be in this amazing energy? You've created this vortex for yourself.
Well, it's lovely to hear you say that, because the last person to become aware of that is the person inside. It's me. And I like to think that I exude particularly love. Love is a word I could get very boring about, because I've got so much to say. But it's necessary to rehabilitate the word love, because unfortunately, at least in society in this country, the two love has been used as a substitute word for sex, because people don't want to say sex, so they'll say love. Now, other people then using the word love don't mean sex, but who to sort that out? We need to rehabilitate love as a total passion. People say to me, well, you said love at the end of that email or whatever. I said, look, I love everybody. I don't want to make any exceptions. So you get love whether you like it or not. I don't necessarily say that last bit, but I mean, that is the thinking.
Now I'm looking through the Law of Brand Attraction book here, because I've got your chapter in the book.
Oh,
guys,
yes.
how many of you don't have this book yet? Make sure you go and buy this book. The money is still going to charity. Just love it. And it just feels like a lifetime ago that we wrote this book together, doesn't it, Jean?
Yes, it was. It's 6 months ago.
I know, and you really weren't well at the time of writing this as well. So I commend you for doing that, because no one had any clue that you were so poorly, and yet you were still on this massive mission to serve. So I want to dig into some parts of your chapter here, and then I've got some juicy questions for you as well. Now, I love the the chapter title. So you said how to listen to your inner guidance system when it's time to get on purpose. Now, you've clearly done that. Why did you choose this as a chapter for the book?
Well, it's a message that I think everybody should hear. And once again, midlife women are reaching the threshold or the lift-off point to find their purpose. But what they have to do with it is deal with a lot of things that hold them back. I call it sticky things in the chrysalis, because the transformation from a caterpillar via a chrysalis to a butterfly seems such a perfect metaphor for the emergence of the midlife woman. But getting out of the chrysalis, and as I said, there are sticky bits that hold on to you, is tough. And only then, because if you say to most midlife women, what's your purpose? They say, I haven't got time for a purpose. I'm so busy looking after X, doing Y, and rushing out. I've got to go now. And so, purpose is the last thing on their mind.
And you've really dug into that.
Oh dear, I think we have a technical difficulty. Can you hear me? Oh dear. So, what can we do?
Yeah. Oh, are we back? Are we back?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, well done. That was very fast.
Oh, thank God for that. No, our internet blew up a couple of days, like literally blew up. The internet just stopped working, and it had, like, the back of it had popped off, and it had just, the battery had exploded. So you have to bear with us. We're digging into temporary internet right now. So right. Jean's chapter starts on page 33 of The Law of Brand Attraction. I'm going to read the first paragraph because it's a good one. It's a good one, this one.
Okay, thank you.
If you are going through or have been through a life transition, you will know what a turbulent experience it can be. Whether that transition is making a big shift in the direction of your business, leaving a long-term relationship, or a change that is taking you on a different path, being ready for that change is not always something that we have time to prepare for. It is not just the physical experience that creates the external shifts that you can physically see around you. There are also emotional and mental shifts that are also going on at the same time, which can leave you feeling overwhelmed, mentally exhausted, and even like giving up. I mean, Jean, that could not be a more prominent message for the world right now, because I know people that with the first lockdown, it hit them hard, but I'm seeing people getting really hit even harder this time through with this second lockdown that we're going through. And there's going to be some big shifts, and there's going to be emotional stuff. There's going to be external stuff, internal stuff. Jean, what would you say to those people that are going through such a big pivot like that?
Well, all I can say is the answer lies within you. I believe that the COVID experience that we're going through is, I call it a divine message, but wherever it comes from outside, saying, look, folks, you're going nowhere. You're going to hell in a handcart. It's about time you started to sort yourself out. And that starts with oneself. So what I feel myself, and I hope a lot of other people are feeling it, that I'm going deeper and deeper inside. And for some people, that's quite a new experience. And they'll resist it by all sorts of trivialities. I hear people saying, finding something to pass the time and so forth. Well, that's because they're not listening. There is a voice there somewhere, maybe very telling them, giving them some divine guidance.
Well, I love what you say in the book. So on page 36 of The Law of Brand Attraction, Jean actually gives a little system away, and I love it. And Jean, do you mind if I share your little system from the book now?
By all means.
Okay, well, because I love it. I love it so much. So, but maybe some of these things will really resonate for you. That are, if you're watching or listening, there's things in here that definitely resonated with me. So I know for sure that there'll be at least one thing out of these 5 things that Jean has given you that will resonate. So, number 1. There is a plan or path you have to follow, and the logic of your purpose may only become clear as you start moving. What do you mean by that, Jean?
Well, we all have inclinations towards doing something and then say, oh, I haven't got time, I haven't got money, I don't know, would anybody take me seriously, and whatever. All of those are they're excuses really for not starting on the path, because how will you move forward unless you do go on that path? So however it is, I mean, we call it the universe, but you could call it, it's constantly putting opportunities in your way, and you can step around them if you like, but it'll come back, and eventually it'll get impatient and it'll start giving you some sharp shocks. So the earlier you take advantage of it. I mean, I'm a great fan of Marianne Williamson, and she says something like, you can either take the pleasant route to fulfilling your life or the painful one. It's up to you. Because
I'm guessing one's a shortcut, though.
no, not necessarily. Well, we don't know how long the path is, and we don't know what's around the next corner. So that's why we have to trust the inner voice to take that step and then see what is around the corner.
Yeah, very wise, very wise. So, point 2, you can say it comes from your higher self, the universe, or some form of your God. But what I have concluded is that your higher purpose is not imposed on you from above. It is something you feel from within, and if you don't listen to it, things will just continue to feel out of place until you do. Now, obviously, our energy is just wiring across the water. Jean, what do you when you think about the times when you haven't listened to that inner guidance, can you think of a time or take us back to a time when you didn't listen to it and you really learned a hard lesson through that?
Well, yes. Most of my life I've been afflicted with sinus trouble. And it can get very bad. It was bad during my time of illness this year. But they always have to ask, why is this happening? Why is this happening? Where is it happening? And often it's only when you look back, you realize that you'd either taken the wrong corner or stopped. And this is a message. And I think to myself, well, it could be a lot worse. It could be my stomach. And I like my food so much that would be a terrible thing. So I'm content to have this as a warning. Unfortunately, in recent years, it hasn't happened much. I mean, this year was an exception, but and I did look hard to see if it was that message. So we probably all got it. I remember a doctor, sort of wise consultant one year, said, we've all got our Achilles heel. And that is what kicks off when things are wrong.
Yeah, there's a massive connection, isn't there, between the spiritual, the emotional, and the physical. I remember, I think it was either last year or the year before, and I was traveling out to deliver an event in Orlando. In fact, Trish, who's on the call right now, I went by and was saying hello and supporting them with their unconference at the same time, and I had this massive pain, this real sharp pain in the back of my right hip just before I was due to go. We were flying out to Holland and then flying out to Florida from Holland. And I just remember being in so much pain. And when I really thought about it, I thought, all right, what are you trying to tell me? What message are you trying to give me? And what I hadn't realized was the death of my nephew is something that I hadn't dealt with. And I just got busy and I carried on and I kept ignoring this emotional pain that was there, and I recognized it was there, but I wouldn't deal with it. And then the thing that kept coming to me was, it's hit a nerve, it's hit a nerve, it's hit a nerve. And I kept thinking, well, what nerve, and what it was doing was it was hitting the nerve that I never got a chance to give him his cap. that I bought him in Canada, and I kept coming back, and I tried to give it, and for whatever reason we just could never match it up, and then he was gone, and I could never give him this cap with the Calgary Flames on it, and that hit a nerve. And you know, it was almost an instant, within hours of me recognizing that and saying, okay, I recognize you, I acknowledge you, and I totally hear you. So I am going to deal with that. And it was like instant. As soon as I had that revelation, that looking at the inner guidance, as I guess the guidance could be coming from above as well. But I very much resonate with that point. How many of you watching or listening to this now have had that happen, where you've had this like really intense physical pain, and once you've realized or dealt with an emotion, that pain went away? I wonder how many of you have had that. Like I tend to, like if I'm not feeling supported, I tend to get a bad back. And I don't know, I don't consciously think I'm not being supported. I start getting a bad back, and then I start thinking, oh, doesn't that mean that's something to do with support? Is it Louise Hay that wrote the book around feelings and pains and bodily physical stuff?
A very good book too. Yes, but the thing is, it's too short. Not too short. She says if you've got this, it's caused by that in one sentence. Lots of people said would want more. I mean, the sentence is enough, but actually, I felt myself, so many people, including me, a bit skeptical about such a short and easy explanation.
I like it. I like it. How many of you have read Louise Hay's book? Maybe one of you could put the name of that book in here. Is it something like Your Body Heals Your Mind or something like that?
I think it's Heal Your Body. What is that?
Oh, maybe someone could put a link in there. All right, Jean, we're moving on to number 3. The mission, plan, and path are known to you. And if you are ever in doubt, go inside and keep check.
Yes. This is something which I've come more and more to believe. And the book I've been reading by Marianne Williamson recently, called A Return to Love, reinforces that. So she says, you have a mission and a purpose, and you were given that, or you accepted that before you came here. So you know what it is, but you've been so busy and chosen to bury it that it's hidden from you now. So that's why you have to dig deep. And it's not new. It's been like that hundreds of years. People use religious rituals and routines, going on retreats, going out into the desert, all these things to find themselves, and with that, what they were here for.
Yes, they do. And a lot of money is invested in doing that when you could just go inside.
Yes.
Because the billions of dollars that are made every year from courses where people are going on to find their why. And actually, if you just start moving one foot in front of the other in a direction, your purpose is going to find you, even if you don't know how to find it. Okay, step 4. If you ever deviate from your path, you will pretty soon feel it. When others and logic are saying stop, ignore anything and anyone other than your own inner guidance system. If a time is right to stop, you will know it.
Yes. Did I really write that? It's very profound.
It's very profound.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of instances. I remember one. I had some, and this is a good 20 to 30 years ago. I had some sort of serious invalidation is the word, but criticism, let's say, of my emergent feminine personality. And I went back because somebody gave to me, and I said, right, where did you get that from? And I worked back along this chain to find out who started this thing. And at every stage, I found myself saying something I didn't fully understand then, but I see it now. I used to say to them, look, what I'm doing has a bigger purpose. What is the biggest issue that affects people on this planet, that screws them up? And it's intergender relationships, including sex. And I can't remember the wording I used to them, but that was basically it. Now I thought to myself, well, it's true, but where is this coming from? Because at that stage I had no concept of what was going to develop.
Mm.
So often if you listen to yourself speaking, you will hear the answer.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? You know, because we pay for coaches a lot of the time, and you know, a good coach is worth their weight in gold.
Mm,
And a good coach will ask you the questions that get into that inner guidance system
yeah,
that answer what you already knew. You just didn't know that you knew it.
that's right. That's right.
If only we knew what we knew, or we knew what we needed to know, so that we would know. Okay, step 5. Some things may happen that are apparently irrelevant to you at the time, but later all will fall into place as part of the grand plan. Jean, tell us about a time in your life where you've had that happen to you, where it just seemed irrelevant, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, I've joined the dots going backwards, like Steve Jobs says.
My goodness me. Let's see which one comes to mind, because there have been many times where that's happened. Because people use the word coincidence. I'm playing for time now. People use the word coincidence as an explanation, but all it is a description. And coincidence means you turn left, turn right, and you meet someone who you were meant to meet, and they told you something. Oh, well, I just thought of one. It was an American man who lived as a woman and had done for many years, Dr. Victoria Prince, I think her name was. And she'd written some books, and I was distributing them in this country. And she came to England briefly. So I went down to London to meet her and spent a few hours with her. She told me something very significant, which I used, and I found it very useful to tell lots and lots of other people. And that's the difference between the term sex as a noun, the activity, sex as a noun, and gender as a noun. So she said, sex is the equipment you're born with and other characteristics that tend to go with it. Gender is how you express yourself. It's an expression of your personality. Not that it's good or no, it's not masculine and feminine. Not that it's one or the other. You choose to express yourself in any and many ways, or using that almost like a piano keyboard. But it's nothing to do with what your bodily equipment is. And that is something which at the time I took on board, but I didn't realize how useful that information was going to be for my own benefit. Because the book that I wrote, the one published in 2016, was going to be called Love, Sex and Gender. But interestingly, during the time I wrote it, this midlife woman concept pushed in. So gender was replaced by midlife woman. And I'm so glad it did, because that gave me a platform from which to take off to do the things I am doing today.
Yeah, and you really have taken off with that. I mean, you've got programs, you've created all kinds of stuff, and we're going to dig into that in a little while. But what I really want to know, Jean, is because you are like the goddess of reinvention. You know, you've gone through this process where you've reinvented your life, you've reinvented your business, and you've gone through. You're an established, credible business woman, and you've got lots of experience in business. How was it for you? Like, you've got Huxley Education, so you've got this education side of your business, and now you've gone into supporting midlife women. That's a massive jump. That's a totally different business. What was it like for you starting again with this new business?
Well, I need to say that I've had multiple businesses over the years. Some have been more successful than others. But let me just say about this thing about business, because business is so strongly associated with money, making money. And if you're making a profit, let's say, or making money, as people say, that's good. And if you're not making money, that's bad. And believe it or not, only today I had a conversation with a person within the accounts department of my accountants who I'd not spoken to before. And she was saying something like, well, you're spending all this money, Huxley Education has accumulated all this thing and so forth. And so I said, when are you going to make some money? And I said, look, Huxley Education is not there to make a profit. It's there to make a difference. So if
I really like that.
yeah, so if I choose to subsidize it, which I have done for, I think, the 8 or 9 years it's existed, that's my choice. And because as a company structure, rather than just spending money as if it was a hobby, it employs certain disciplines. At least you know how much money you've lost, how much money you've invested.
Yeah, yes. So, but let's come back to the question. What was it like creating a brand new business in a totally different direction for you?
Well, if I go back to 2004, which is roughly when it is, when I started Huxley Education, or what became Huxley Education, because I think it was a couple of years before I incorporated it into a company. I had a lot of doubt, because I remember showing it to a friend of mine. That I did a plan and an outline of what it was I did, and I was a little in doubt, very much. Who am I? Imposter syndrome sort of thing. Who am I to embark upon this educating for life skills? And it was originally going to be called the University of Life, because people were taught all sorts of things at school, but not life skills. And when they get out into the real world, they learn the life skills the hard way. If they'd had some preparation, it needn't be so hard. So this was the concept that I had, of a life skills education body. But I was then say to myself, well, who are you to do that? And why isn't it done before? Is it all that sort of stuff? And I showed it to a friend of mine, and she just said, well, that's what you've always been talking about doing, so get on and do it. Oh, it was very helpful. No, I think at the very beginning, when you conceive the idea of a business, this imposter syndrome kicks in quite hard, because you've got no evidence and no experience to put up against it.
Yeah, and it can be very easy to everybody else is doing and feel like you're this big when everybody else is so big.
Yeah, and yet when I look back over the previous 10, 20 years, let's say, there was a lot of evidence that I'd been doing that. I've been written books on self-development and life skills and things like this. I'd run courses in life skills and things like that. So I did have a background, but all that counted for nothing when you're faced with the thing of that you're going into the public arena, claiming to be an expert in this area.
So what would you say, Jean, then, like, you've now established yourself as a credible expert in this area. So what is the biggest success that you are celebrating from this year?
I think the emergence of a team. Until, let's say 12 months ago, it was very much a solo effort. And I was going to coaches and going on courses and so forth, putting more and more stuff into me, which is, I think, a worthwhile investment. But through some people I've met in the Brand Builders Club, we now have an enterprise which can be as joint as they want it to be, but they're not tied to it by any means, more than their willingness to be involved and benefit from it. Because the formula that I've come up with in this new program gives them a shot, which I have to thank you for. You rang me in November last year and said, Jean, you need to go on this course with this Canadian who's coming over here. And
Faith is set.
Yeah, that's right. And you have to get your skates on. It's on next week, or weekend after next. And it's down in London, Kingston University, which you may never have heard of, but it's in. And so I took you at your word. I went, and that really was the jam.
Totally ready for joint venturing. That's why. And he is a master in JVs.
So thank you for that. It took a long time, because afterwards I thought, oh yeah, very good stuff. But it'll be sometime in the future. It's happening a lot faster now. Sorry, a lot earlier than I had thought.
I love that. That's so good. And I love that you've been able to use the Brand Builders Club to build your dream with a team. That's something that we talk about at Brand Builders, and not everybody really takes out that particular outcome from it because they don't work it. But you've just made that commitment, right? I'm going to build my dream with a team. What's the point of trying to do this on my own? I've got amazing partners around me that could be building the business with me and sharing in not only the intention and the reinvention, but also the profit that comes from that, which again,
let's call it
you can reinvest that into charities and do all kinds of stuff, can't you, with that?
Rather than profit, I prefer to use the word income, because it's it's more neutral. The word profit has got bad connotation. I'm not saying for us, but necessarily in the world, it's
Yeah.
a dirty word.
Yeah, I hear you. Definitely. Well, Jean, what do you know for sure about your industry? So you're in the industry of midlife women, reinvention, making the most out of the amazing years that they have now probably gone through the process of having children, being there for everybody else, doing everything for everyone else, and now it's their time. What do you know for sure about this industry that you are now in?
Well, let me backtrack a little bit to answer your question with something that happened in the very early part of the last century, something like in the 1910s or time of the First World War or something. An American guy wrote a book called Life Begins at 40. And this was very interesting. I mean, I know that you'll know there was a song later on, I think a few years later, which what's her name used to sing? Or recite, actually. Never mind, the name will come back to me. But that was preceded by this book. And what this book said is we are now healthy enough to have a life expectation well beyond 40. In the past, well, let's say as compared to that. So what are we going to do with it? Life begins at 40. A whole new thing has opened up. And that has been manifest in the last 200 years, 100 years or so. But now, what I think I've discovered, or not discovered, drawn attention to, is the fact that there's this new window. Because prior to that, women had all the attributes of youth and voluptuousness, which is what Marianne calls it. But then that starts to fade, unfortunately. And what they're desperately trying to put it off, trying to retain their vision of themselves as a young woman as they're cracking into their 40s and 50s. And of course, it's not really possible to any degree to pull that off. And you're fighting the clock anyway. So now we're able to say with the midlife woman movement, say starting in mid-40s, there is now a window called midlife woman of 20 to 30 years before you have to embrace the next stage, which was middle age. So no woman, a young woman, would want to be middle-aged, but that's all she could look forward to. So this has opened up this new window, and because the midlife woman is not trying to be the young woman anymore. She's quite content with herself and her body as it is, but it is an excellent vehicle to do that. And I just say to people, look around, look at the powerful women you see in that age group who've already reinvented themselves. But there's room for so many more because so many are lurking in the shadows because of the sticky bits that hold them in the chrysalis.
Yeah, I love the analogy of the chrysalis. Absolutely brilliant. And it's so visual, isn't it? You can really visualize that. And it's almost like, people are getting older with their reinvention, I guess. As you say, it would have been a lot younger. Midlife would have been a lot younger before. So we're getting older, which I suppose is true for women who are having children older now. And there's all kinds of factors that are kicking in that are, I suppose, digging into the psychology of a woman in younger age. Now career is becoming before children, and there's a lot of things happening now that are swinging everything further along. Jean, what do people wrongly assume about you?
I've no idea because they don't tell me.
I bet you must know. Tap into your inner guidance system now.
Well, I will. For a long time, I had this secret nagging, voice saying, "But they must see through you. They must see you as a fraud." That because they'll say, "Well, it's a bloke, isn't it?" And so,
oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say that is something that in the early days it was quite justifiable, because I look back at some of the early photographs of myself. as my transition, which took place over 20 odd years. So, you know, it's a long time. Some of the early ones, I call them my penny dreadfuls.
Well, at least you've got a sense of humor around it, and you can look upon that. And you know, I know that I definitely cringe when I look at photos. Even in the last few years, I look at photos and go, oh my God, we saw some photos a couple of nights ago and my hair was almost black, and I said, why didn't you stop me from that? It looks awful.
We are
at the time, do they?
Yeah, this has happened at least twice that I can remember. So where I've been in a selfie with two other girls, and when they look at them and say, oh, you two look all right, but I look dreadful. And, and then the second girl said exactly the same, of course, replacing her. So we all are so critical of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, we do that. We all do it for sure. Well, Jane, you know, now you know for sure what it is you are here to do, and your purpose and your commitment to your cause for the rest of your life. What would you say is the impact that you most want to make?
I call it the unisex society, where gender is something that's left behind. It might be it is useful as a description for all sorts of other ways, but it should be irrelevant. And if we go back to my analogy of the seesaw, a lot of people move from one end of the seesaw to a lot of transsexuals, both ways, move from one end of the seesaw to the other. And I know from them, I know that they're not 100% happy with where they arrive. And so it's just unnecessary. You don't have to choose. And now our society is getting so liberal, at least in the UK. I can't speak for outside, but let's say in the UK, people just don't care. You can come out looking like a cabbage, and people wouldn't say, wouldn't, you know, the Brits are particularly polite and very tolerant.
Right.
So, you know, perhaps we are ahead of the game in this country. And but I hope it will spread worldwide, because going back to what I said a little while ago, the issues that screw us up around sex and gender are so powerful, painful, and they hold up our society.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are coming through that whole transition that really need to hear your message. So, Jean, how can they hear your message? You know, you've recently launched something, so I'm not going to give it away. Tell us about what you're doing and what's coming up, and what can we expect from you?
Well, let me say, first of all, there's a website called lovemidlifewoman.com.
Lovemidlifewoman.com.
Yes.
Okay, just typed that out on the screen there. Is that spelt correctly?
I mean,
Lovemidlifewoman.com.
Yes, it's actually, that's exactly it. And on there are probably 20 to 30 blog posts that I put on there over the last few years on all sorts of subjects relating to women, sex, love, gender, all those sort of things, including quite a lot, unfortunately, necessary on domestic abuse. And so if somebody wants to get a flavour of how I operate, or what I think, that's a good start. The second one is there is a page there where you can go and buy the book, Love, Sex, and a Midlife Woman, but that's more of an investment of time rather than money. Sure. And so I can understand that not many people got time, although I'm going to be recording extracts to put it onto the other side, which is just the members area that we are launching now, which you made reference to, which is going to be called Discovering the Midlife Woman Within. And it's a program of gradual thing, because I say midlife women are the busiest people on the planet, and they don't have time to sit down and work through courses with pen and paper and all that sort of stuff. So I use a method called the drip method, which means little and often. So I put out a short video or a quotation or a question or something to think about 2 or 3 times a week. And the members get that stuff and they absorb it so that it goes in like osmosis. And after a while, they find that their thinking changes and their attitudes change, and then their behavior changes, and then their results change.
Yeah.
But they never realized that they were being educated for that change because it was such a gradual thing.
Interesting. And so what is Discover the Midlife Woman Within then? How long is it? Is it a course, program? How does it work?
Well, its purpose is to provide information, inspiration, and guidance to women who are emerging into this midlife zone. And they can stay members for as long as they want to. It costs £9 a month. And they, as long as they're getting some of that information, inspiration, and guidance that they feel is useful, they can stay a member for as long as they want to.
Sure.
I'm also encouraging members who are therapists, counselors, or coaches also to become members, so they can use material that they receive to pass it on to their clients to whom a particular thing is relevant or helpful or something like that. And that will spread the message out further.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. Jean, how can we support you? For those of us that are tuning in and watching or listening to this show, what is like the best thing that we could go away and do to help you with this mission?
Memorize the following bit.ly link.
Okay, go ahead.
It's www.bit.ly, and you know that because you do that all the time. Discover Midlife. So I think there's a /.
Yeah. Okay, I've just popped that on there. So Discover Midlife. Okay, fabulous. Sometimes you can't, guys and girls, for those of you that are watching, I've just put the link up on the screen. You won't be able to click on that link because it's just showing as a banner. What we'll do is straight after the show, we'll come in and put the actual link in the comments so that you can click on it and go straight through and you'll have the correct link there. Jean, thank you so much for being on today's show. Where are you joining us from today? Where are you coming live from?
I live in a house on the hills overlooking Stockport in Cheshire. And it's a remote place, but the strongest thing I get here is the Wi-Fi. So much better than the telephone and things like that.
Brilliant. Well, it's so nice having you to be able for you to come live from where you are right now.
Can I ask you to put one more thing in there? The Discover.
Hi, Kelly.
The Discover Midlife is it's just being. It is constructed, but it's just being tweaked and titivated. In the next week or so, it may not work or something like that because we've got to do something else as well. So let me give as a fail-safe my email address. So anybody who wants to talk about anything that we've talked about can get me. It's Jean.
Yeah.
At lovemidlifewoman.
Yeah.
.com.
Got it. Okay. So if you or someone you know may be affected by some of the issues and the challenges and the things that we've discussed on this show, I sound like I'm from Channel 4 or something now, or the BBC. If you've been affected by the comments that we've made today on today's show, please reach out to Jean, because there are people out there who are in pain, who are hurting, or maybe are just completely confused and they have no idea what their next step is. It's not going to do any harm to send Jean an email and reach out. Jean, I just love you so much. Kelly's just put in here, I read your story, Jean. It was very inspiring. And yeah, so Kelly's a fan. Jean, you've got so many fans. Like everyone in the Brand Builders Club loves you and adores you. You're just such an amazing member, and the support that you give to others in the club is just, even when you're ill and you're not feeling good, you're still always there. So I want to commend you for that and just wish you every piece of joy and luck and love and happiness. And I got so much faith in you and where you're going. You really deserve to achieve the success that you have in your heart.
Well, thank you so much, Sammy. That's wonderful to hear.
Oh, you're very welcome. So, Jean, it's time to go. I want to ask you one last question, and I just love this question. What is the craziest thing you've ever done?
I suppose jump out of a plane at 25,000 feet.
Did you really?
Well, I didn't jump. I fell forward.
You fell out of it. Fell out of a plane.
It was deliberate. It was deliberate, and I had a parachute and somebody else strapped to me, but it still was just that last minute or two before the, let's call it the fall rather than the jump. I was a little worried, but safe enough.
You're still here. Well, Jean, love you to pieces. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us on today's show. Guys and girls, do connect with Jean. There's her email address on the screen. For those of you that are listening in, I'll make sure that all the show notes and everything are with it. Take care, have fun, be happy, keep being that one drop you want to see in the world. Give us a little shimmy with your one drop, Jean. Kelly's bought her one drop today. Woo! So brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. You're a one droppreneur that everybody should be following. And Kelly, maybe you could get Jean on your show as well. Jean, have a wonderful evening. Those of you that are watching and tuning in, you go have an amazing day as well. We'll look forward to seeing you next week. We'll be back on Tuesday and Thursday for our next Confessions of a Global Changemaker show. Take care, and we'll see you there. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.